is time to welcome you back to Formula One from Lusail International Circuit in Qatar. It's race day, and for the first time in Formula One World Championship history, we are all set to run a 23rd Grand Prix of the year. Formula One's longest ever season continues with the Qatar Grand Prix in under 5 minutes' time. It is a day where McLaren could win their first Constructors' Championship since 1998. For the penultimate time in 2024, this is Formula One. We go racing around a 5.4 kilometre circuit, 3.3 miles in length, one DRS zone down the main straight, a really tight and technical infield section, but it's high speed throughout. It will be a real test of the driver's fitness tonight. It's the soft, the medium and the hard tyres. We're expecting a one-stop strategy across the board with the medium and the hard tyres. If we get a late safety car, maybe you'd fancy bolting on a set of the softs. We're underneath the floodlights for this race, which we begin at the back of the grid with Esteban Ocon, who was on the podium in Sao Paulo, 20th on the grid next to Franco Colapinto, 4 times out of the last 5. He's gone out in Q1. Nico Hülkenberg finished ahead of Max Verstappen in the sprint, 18th for the Grand Prix. Liam Lawson is 17th. Alex Albon's Williams is not working in the wind. He starts P16 on the grid. He's next to Lance Stroll in the green Aston Martin. Then it's Yuki Tsunoda in 14th. Valtteri Bottas, 13th on the grid. Can he score his first points of the season? It's Zhou Guanyu's best start of the entire campaign in 12th. He's looking to score Sauber's first points as well. Pierre Gasly just missed out on Q3. Kevin Magnussen got there for the 3rd time in the last 4 races. Sergio Perez is 9th for Red Bull. This could be the last time that they have their Constructors' crown in their possession. Fernando Alonso is 8th, Carlos Sainz 7th for Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton has not started in the top 5 of the last 5 Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc 5th on the grid as Ferrari tried to heap the pressure on the road 2 pair of Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. Piastri's best starting position since he won the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And a one-place penalty for Max Verstappen for going unnecessarily slowly on the outlap in the final part of qualifying. And he's still not had the Grand Prix pole since the Austrian Grand Prix earlier in the year. It's round 23 of the season. We welcome you to the commentary box, where I'm Alex Jakes and I am not alone, which is a good thing considering the upturn in surprises we've had all weekend long. David Coulthard, Jolyon Palmer alongside me. Gentlemen, what are we expecting tonight?
Well, I think this is going to be a flurry of excitement on the first lap. Then it'll maybe be a little slow burn as they all try and figure out where they are on their tyres, and then strategy will come into play. So I think it's going to be more like a chess match than a sort of full-out, sprint like we saw last year.
I've just seen that literally everyone's starting on the same tyre, and we're expecting a one-stop. But I still think there's going to be some strategy in play in terms of how you're using the tyres. Do you go short? Do you try and undercut? Do you go long? Overtaking is possible, but it's not easy, as we saw in the sprint. So first lap's going to be so important.
Hearing that Hülkenberg has gone for the hard tyres, so there is a little bit of variation there. Great to be with you wherever in the world you are watching, and it's going to be intriguing to see whether Max Verstappen is able to undo that one-place grid penalty for driving unnecessarily slowly in qualifying. Bit of an odd one, in truth, and we haven't had a one-place penalty in a long time in Formula One.
Yeah, it is indeed. We come off images of him. You saw his head sort of shaking around. That's him doing a little clutch bite point find as he sits there on the grid, I believe. And they just, you see, I like the little procedures. You just roll him back slightly from where his grid box is, so you can lay some rubber into your starting position. And on the one grid penalty, we need to be smarter than that. 4 hours I think it took for them to come up with that one.
Curious decision as well, wasn't it, in the end? And we haven't seen a one-place penalty for a long time. Seemed a pretty innocuous infraction, to be honest, for Verstappen. And Red Bull and Max clearly a bit fired up by that. The start's going to be crucial, and he might be able to overcome that penalty into turn 1.
Now, as we begin the formation lap, a word from the stewards. The pit entry incident on the reconnaissance laps involving 4th place Oscar Piastri will be investigated after the race. He basically swooped around the outside of Lewis Hamilton on pit entry. You'd usually say that won't be anything, but you never know. So that will be investigated after the race. And the top 17 are on the yellow-walled medium tyre. Hülkenberg is on the hard. Colapinto and Ocon also on the medium. So just Hülkenberg trying something completely different, but he's got good pace. He finished ahead of Verstappen in the sprint.
Yeah, well done him and Haas for doing something that wasn't exactly the same as the entire rest of the field. You want to try and get some clear air in this Grand Prix. The Ferrari drivers have both said that. They think they've got better race pace than qualifying pace. They start behind the McLarens and need to beat them in this Grand Prix. They're going to be looking for free air. Does that mean pitting early? Does it mean going long and looking after your tyres early on? And that's why Hülkenberg has done something different. He had an issue with his energy management system in qualifying. He shouldn't have qualified 18th. We know he's got a lot more pace. He beat Max Verstappen in the sprint yesterday, so he wants to go different, and he'll charge at the end of the race.
Yeah, that's someone that definitely has the pace to make his way through. The others were, I guess, largely in sort of expected performance order. Kevin Magnussen in 10th there, well, that gives him an opportunity to be nice and feisty on that opening lap.
And the two Saubers, 12th and 13th. One of them, Zhou, started on a soft yesterday as a bit of a recce, see what that does, and they obviously didn't like it. So they're on the mediums as well, desperate for a World Championship point.
Let's see if they can manage that as we bring the cars to the line with George Russell for the first time in his Formula One career, scoring back-to-back pole positions. He led all but one lap in Las Vegas, and he'll be looking to keep the rest of the field at bay. But you get the feeling that Max Verstappen is going to be racing on the ragged edge, having been denied that pole position. It would have been his 41st. Instead, George Russell is parked up on pole on his own.
He is indeed, and that's not by accident that Max is making George wait in pole position. It's, the benefit of pole is you've got clean track ahead of you. The downside is you sit longer, losing temperature from your tyre preparation that you take to the grid. So in theory, the person in last place in the grid should have the best start because they've got the best prepared tyres.
And George would have been feeling lonely on that grid as well when you park up and you realise, oh, the Red Bull that's starting behind me is still 100 metres back, still doing burnouts.
Cue the music all by myself.
Okay, this is the nervy moment for everyone watching on in the pit lane. The Constructors' Championship is on the line for Red Bull, mathematically, McLaren and Ferrari. McLaren have to get to the magical total of 45 points in front. They start today 30 points in front of Ferrari. Final cars into position. Russell has waited an age at the head of the field here. Could affect things into turn number 1. Final car in place means we get the green flag at the back. Here come the lights in Losail. And the Qatar Grand Prix is underway. George Russell launches off the line. He'll have to chop across Max Verstappen, who's got good momentum. He's got the inside line. He's got the lead of the Grand Prix. Lando Norris fighting on the inside as well. Lando's going past the pair of them. How did he do that? He didn't do that because Verstappen managed to get his elbows out. Our pole sitter falls to third. It's Verstappen and Norris at the head of the field, with Max Verstappen going wheel to wheel with his rival for the title early this year. But it's P2 on the grid. That penalty avenged immediately as Verstappen gains a place. Russell loses 2 positions. Norris gains a place as well, and off into the background of one of the Haas's, surely of Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah, it was all happening there. Alonso was a little bit premature with his start, so expect him to pick up a penalty.
I think it was Lewis Hamilton from 6th, just ahead of Alonso potentially, that did that. It hasn't really helped either of them out. They're 8th and 9th on the grid. Either way, brilliant from Max Verstappen. Inside of Russell, held George to the outside line as the safety car is deployed. Lando had a chance to come through, but he had the inside again, Max, and he's so clinical from that position.
Ocon and Colapinto stranded at turn 1. You now see the pictures, and they are out at the first turn. The drivers who started at the back of the field going no further than the first lap of the Grand Prix.
Well, I know one thing, Colapinto will be hoping that was more Ocon than him, because he's arrived in a flurry of pure talent, speed and performance, but as we see that puncture on the back of Hülkenberg's tyre, he doesn't want to be the cause of that incident in turn 1.
Absolutely not. These guys were 18th, 19th and 20th on the grid. From there, it's difficult to be a hero, but to end the race is such a shame, with plenty of unknowns and a really physical, grueling test where you never know if you can make it through, but you can't if you're in a piece on the outside of the track. And you're right, Colapinto's had plenty of damage in the last couple of weekends. He did not need that.
It's a curious one for me, Julian, that there is so many incidents at this first corner, because it's not like the chicane in Monza or a hairpin straight away. where everyone is really struggling to understand heavy fuel, where do you brake, you're on dust. It flows, it allows for 2x2.
But the problem is it entices you into going 3x3 or 4x4. Let's have a look at the start again. So it's Hamilton doesn't move off the line, and I think he moved before the lights went out and then had to stop, and that's why he gets a woeful start and has dropped down to 9th position. Further back, there's a V-Cub going around the outside. Hulkenberg's having a moment, and he clips Ocon and Colapinto, who were both trying to go around his outside.
Yeah, so that looks like it was Hulkenberg was the catalyst, gone into Ocon, and then Ocon's gone into Colapinto. And apologies, I called it as Alonso jumping the start. I think you're right, it was Hamilton.
And maybe this is why 19 cars started on the medium tyre. Let's have a look from this angle. You might see Hulkenberg further back, having his own moment. Was he already touching Ocon or not? And actually, Colapinto is the victim in that.
Phew, I hear him saying. Not good for Williams, but nonetheless, he's saying not the catalyst, so on board with Ocon. We're going to be watching as the right side to see Hulkenberg.
It's right in front of us is Hulkenberg. Ocon's going to dive round the outside at the first corner. And Hulk's just got absolutely no grip, so he's already locked up the right front. He's got Alex Albon just ahead, and he's nervous about hitting the Williams. Then he's having to turn, and that causes the spin. Let's have a look. So he's on the brakes. There's Albon. Oh, he's got no grip on that hard tyre. So it was a bold call from Haas, trying to get him onto something different. And it just meant you're always going to be a little bit vulnerable on the opening lap, and that was the result. Just trying to fight with those on the mediums without the necessary grip.
Round goes Albon, further on lap one.
Massively hit by Stroll. Yeah, copy that. I knew he was going to do it, I could tell.
Well, unfortunately, being clairvoyant doesn't help the fact he could well have damage to the car.
So this is Stroll. I mean, honestly, I don't think he's done a huge amount wrong there. He's got to the apex, they're drifting wide. I think that's a racing incident in my eyes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the finest drivers in the world showing you how to do an opening lap.
Yeah, scrappy one. This is on board with Joe Guan Yu, lost some positions off the line. He's down 3 places from where he started this Grand Prix season's best. Had to take avoiding action of the crash in front.
Mate, this Aston, what the
Also worth saying on the start replays, you saw Charles Leclerc very punchy into turn 2 to gain a place on Oscar Piastri. It's why Leclerc's in 4th, Piastri is in 5th. There's a lot going on there, so there's a lot to clear up.
And we barely even mentioned the fact that pole sitter George Russell didn't only lose 1 place, but he lost 2. And having looked at the back of a McLaren for the entire 19 laps of the sprint, he's going to look at the back of a McLaren again when we go green.
We'll try and fire things up. As it stands, you've got McLaren outscoring Ferrari by 8 points. And that's not enough to take the title today, but long way to go after a very messy and dramatic opening lap, the 3rd ever Qatar Grand Prix. Max Verstappen immediately getting by. Norris got a lot of purchase on the inside line. It looked when they stood on the power that he might have enough momentum to go past both Verstappen and Russell. Second phase of that corner, Verstappen had enough, plain P1.
Well, Norris has had enough chances to realise that you're not going to hold it around the outside of Max, are you? So this time he didn't try at turn 2.
Yeah, he certainly he pulled some sort of moves to show Max that his motors were full of orange, but you can't toy with Max in those situations. You've got to fully commit. And on this occasion, the racetrack didn't allow that to happen. And, well, I guess Max will be thinking that's sort of redemption for what was the penalty from yesterday. And then George will be thinking, what an opportunity missed, because he was and has been absolutely brilliant the last 2 weekends.
Yeah, Russell gaining the lead off the line in Sao Paulo in wet conditions, keeping the lead from pole position when we saw the Las Vegas Grand Prix, but it always looked like Max had got the jump there in the opening meters of the race, and as soon as they went into the second phase, where he is about now on the racetrack, it was clear that he had the inside line, and so he claims the lead, trying to win once again. He's trying to win in the dry for the first time since the Austrian Grand Prix. Obviously a massive outlier with the conditions that we had in Sao Paulo, trying to win the penultimate Grand Prix of the year. So losing out, the Saubers heading backwards. They're searching for their first point of the year. This result is not enough to give McLaren the Constructors' Championship as it stands. And now Hulkenberg has gone on to a hard tyre again. So you do have to run 2 compounds as per the rule.
And still nothing on Lewis Hamilton being investigated for a false start there as well, which pretty sure he did move before the lights going out. But either way, it's important that that Sainz got ahead of Hamilton, because that brings him back into the fight, and he's with the second McLaren.
Absolutely perfect. Just a little bit of wheel spin later in the start phase, and it was pretty nip and tuck, but clearly was able to get his car down the inside.
He's never not going to do that when he's halfway on the inside into the first corner. Has a little look across George at turn 1. Lando comes through on the outside, but again, he's never not going to get the inside for 2 and keep it.
It'd be really good to be able to see again a sort of full grid start, so we could try and understand further. Definitely caught my eye, the movement from the inside of the grid. So Hamilton with that movement. I guess if he didn't go outside the detection area, so there's a sensor in the ground, there's a sensor on the car, and as long as you're within a proximity, that doesn't class as a jump start.
Key moment of the Grand Prix coming your way now. The safety car is returning to the pit lane. It is up to Max Verstappen when we go back to green flag racing conditions. You cannot overtake until the start-finish line. And when does Verstappen drop the hammer? There are 16 corners on this racetrack. This is the 15th. When does he go? Norris will want to go with him. Surely it can't be too much later. He is waiting very late in the day to stand on the power and take the pack racing once again. And he gets the jump on Lando Norris. Searching for tyre temperature, they all will be at this stage. You see slightly wider line there for Lando. As they bring the temperatures in, the green flag flies at Losail International once again. And Piastri is very close to Leclerc. That seems to be the closest one. George Russell's also got a run on Lando Norris. Let's see whether the moves are going to change. They are debating 4th place, and they stay as they were into turn 1.
Piastri's past Leclerc. Leclerc understeered at the final corner, just couldn't get through, but he dives back on the inside.
And off the road in the background we go with Liam Lawson. And so Liam Lawson is heading off the road to tumble down the order. And another moment at the first turn. He's got going once again. And so it's Verstappen, Norris, Russell, Piastri and Charles Leclerc in the order. So Piastri gaining back that place that he lost at the start of the Grand Prix.
Ferrari have been struggling with understeer so far this weekend, and Charles just turned in. They were all in the crocodile trying to get going in the final corner. He just didn't have the front grip, which allowed Oscar Piastri to get the slipstream, and without DRS then just managed to blast straight past on the straight. Nice headwind as it was yesterday for the sprint, so the slipstream on itself is pretty effective.
Yeah, that's great to see actually. Oscar, relatively inexperienced in the amount of Grand Prix he's done, but absolutely reading that perfectly and taking advantage before getting out of the first corner.
He's a very clinical racer, isn't he? You see it time and time again, and that's an important pass, getting ahead of the first of the Ferraris.
You wouldn't want to play poker with him, because you can't really tell whether he's happy or sad. He's just sort of constantly in Oscar state.
The turn 1 incident involving Ocon, Hulkenberg and Colapinto has been reviewed, and no further investigation required for causing a collision. We're looking now at Oscar Piastri trying to close up to George Russell. And McLaren not happy with what they saw yesterday in qualifying. Lando Norris expecting the Mercedes of George Russell to be the car to beat earlier on, as we're seeing in the corner a replay of the move that took Piastri up to 4th position.
Yeah, he had it done just in the straight, really. There was nothing that Leclerc could do. Dropped him down to 5th. This is Lawson now, side by side with the Sauber.
It's about to go wrong. He's not really had his little spin. Yeah, a little bit like Hulkenberg. He's gone in shallow and then just found that optimism was greater than talent and grit, and had that spin.
And further back, Lewis Hamilton was fighting.
And the speed on the straight is worrying.
So Hamilton able to get past Alonso, and then Tsunoda was able to follow through as well, as was Magnussen, as was Gasly, and Alonso reporting what must be a problem because he's lost a ton of positions back to back to back.
Yeah, that's a shame for him because he's had a great qualifying. He loves to get racing with the big guns, with the champions, and he's been doing that, but maybe with one hand tied behind his back, because he shouldn't be dropping 4 places on a safety car restart.
You can really notice the car's heavy, full of fuel, the visible marks dragging the plank all the way down the start-finish. That will ease off, of course, as they burn off the weight of the fuel. And then we get into this DRS train of cars.
Alonso's still running there with the DRS, looking at the back of Gasly, so I don't know where he lost the rest of the positions, but maybe it was wrong engine settings or something as he got going, but now he seems to be back in the rhythm of things. He's just lost those crucial positions.
I don't expect anyone to sort of take a big bolt away right now. I think even for Max at the front, he'll be trying to manage the gap to Norris, not allow him to get too much into the DRS, but it'll be about trying to make sure he doesn't open out that tyre too early.
He wants to make sure he stays more than a second clear, because the DRS plus the slipstream is effective on the long straight. So he's done that. He's a second and a half clear of Norris, who's got Russell just away from his DRS as well in first, second and third. Piastri hanging on there in fourth at the moment.
Glorious high-speed turns around 12, 13 and 14 that have been so quick when the cars have been at their lightest. Slightly slower in race trim, but still magnificent change of direction.
In all of the melee, Tsunoda's up 5 places. That's a big move in their battle in the championship.
Yeah, and he was able to take that place as well, and he's ahead of Kevin Magnussen. Magnussen's in his DRS range, though. He's right there. Max Verstappen is 1.2 seconds away from Lando Norris. There's a 10-second time penalty for Lance Stroll for causing a collision, so we won't make Jolien a steward just yet. They've disagreed with him in that department. 10 seconds, if you're going to give the penalty, it's 10 rather than 5, isn't it, this year, as per the rulebook.
I still feel it's a bit harsh. Technically, he was moving out, but you can't vanish on the inside. They were side by side. Albon was coming around the outside, and it's the first lap, where often there's a bit of leniency, but not today.
Yeah, well, they're lenient, especially in the first corner. But they tend to see some gravel dust has been kicked up in the background of the shot there. But Academic, as he's going to be retiring the car, they're not retiring it because of the 10-second penalty. There's obviously an issue. Oh, he's going again.
Well, he's got to serve the 10-second penalty, and then they'll retire the car, I think. Otherwise, it'll go to a grid drop for the next week.
Well,
so they were going to drop him out of the race. He'll trundle back through the pits, and then probably retire the car.
Yeah, good team management there to remember the rule book. So this is Lance Stroll just doing one more lap, then he will retire the car, is the information that we've got. There was no mechanical problem for Fernando Alonso, but he was off the road at turn 5, which is how he lost the places to Magnussen and Gasly, having been breezed by Lewis Hamilton, and then Tsunoda was able to fight through as well. So an intriguing start, a couple of spins at turn 1.
I cannot believe it, man. 2 years with the same problem on the straights.
Yeah, well, Fernando, he's giving you one of your greatest assets, and he can also be a little bit like a hand grenade inside a team at times. That can be a reflection of the engine they've got. That can only be the drag for the downforce they have.
Turn 4, Lando Norris dipping the wheel in the gravel. And it only looks minor, but second place could have fallen away. And here now, Fernando Alonso off the road a couple of times. That's how Magnussen got by in the Haas, improving up to 10th position.
Yeah, a little bit messy. And then for Lando, that's just a classic. He's nailed it into the turn, and then you end up leaning on the front axle. So you see Hamilton there have a little squiggle as the rear unsettles through the apex of the corner, but you lean on the front tyre, and if it just doesn't give you the grip because you're getting micro-graining, then you can't brake and take any speed off. You're just sort of committed to where the momentum will take the car.
Lap 9 of 57, the incident involving Lewis Hamilton for a potential false start is under investigation. So it's been noted, sorry, only noted.
Okay, yeah, so it's a false start. He moves and he doesn't stop again.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
The amount of times you see that, so he releases the clutch early. He's just trigger happy on that one, trying to make amends, and he knows the race pace is going to be better than the quali pace. Can he make a couple of places at the start? But he's jumped the gun. He doesn't stop the car again, so he's rolling as the lights go out. That's going to be a slam dunk, I'm fairly sure, as Stroll now retires the car. The amount of times, though, that you see the sort of false start, that actually is just a detriment. He's lost places with it because it just loses the focus. You panic in that moment, think you've done something wrong, and you need laser focus to make any gains.
Significant overtake for 9th position. We'll show it to you as quickly as we can. Kevin Magnussen, in his final races in Formula One, has fought his way past Yuki Tsunoda. Haas trying to claim 6th position in the Constructors' Championship, and Magnussen gaining a place there. Important that he did so. The incident involving Bottas and Lawson is under investigation for causing a collision, and this is the overtake for Kevin Magnussen. Yuki says go the long way round, and Kevin Magnussen is going to.
Oh, fruity stuff from K-Mag. He's forced wide, keeps his foot in over the gravel, and then with a bit of gravel, jumps back up the inside. It's hard racing between two teams that are fighting it out in the Constructors. They need these points so crucially. It's a lovely pass.
It was brilliant, full of commitment, absolute belief. It was one of those where you just felt like I'm coming past you or we're both going off. And Yuki accepted the loss of position there. Now, just looking at Ferrari, they're dropping away, managing the tyres, but with Carlos Sainz only 0.7 behind Leclerc, that's a clear message that he wants to be released. He wants to go and run his own race.
Yuki Tsunoda not in a good phase of the race at the moment. Yeah, Gasly, his good friend, has caught him. These former teammates battling over the last points-paying position. We're on board with the French one-time Grand Prix winner at the moment.
Tsunoda moving on the braking. Too late.
Copy.
We thought this might be a slow burn, this Grand Prix, but 11 laps and it's still all going on. Gasly looking at the back of the final point. Tsunoda, V-Carb struggling for pace generally in this weekend's running. Lawson did a great job in sprint qualifying, but struggled in the sprint. Tsunoda now finding the same fate.
We had a cutaway there to Avi Pulling, who is the F1 Academy champion for 2024. A brilliant title victory. And she's given Alpine something to smile about there. I'm surprised she didn't have a Champions Trophy ready to go. Just be, oh, what's this?
I jumped on the brake because otherwise I was going to smash him.
Okay, mate.
Gasly trying to sell it on the radio. No investigation. We do have a word. It's a 10-second time penalty for Liam Lawson in the other RB for causing a collision at the first turn.
Well, it's going to let things cool down at his pit stop before they can service him when he eventually comes in. And Gasly there continues to put pressure on the back of Tsunoda.
Tsunoda clinging on to DRS from Magnussen ahead, and these three cars, as they were in the sprint, running line astern, a Haas, a V-Carb and an Alpine, and the minor points, literally a point difference, makes so much difference in the championship standings. 3 points between Alpine and Haas after Hulkenberg's 7th place yesterday. There we go, 3 points further back to RB there. They all need whatever they can to give themselves a chance next week.
If it finishes like this, we go to the final round of the season for the Constructors' Championship decider. McLaren would lead by 42 points. The bonus point currently in the possession of Max Verstappen. Got to give you the update, but there's a long way to go and it could easily change. Crucially, Lando is able to stay DC 1.8 seconds away from Max Verstappen, which is still undercut range if he chose to make his pit stop tonight.
Yeah, that is the other side, another option that's open to them. It would be a question of where does he fall into the traffic. They haven't really had a big breakaway down as far as Hamilton, and then you see that next sort of gap to Mag.
Lando, from what we can see, Verstappen's tyres similar to ours. Russell behind, slightly worse than ours.
Lovely move around the outside. And Yuki Tsunoda offering that inside move. Pierre Gasly going for the grippy racing line and taking 10th position away from the man that sometimes he does karaoke with, but he was roaring by and taking the place. So Haas leads, Alpine leads, RB in the battle for 6th in the championship on the road at the moment. This is Zhou Guanyu, who's in 13th position.
He's got the grandstand view of the action ahead.
So that was Lawson getting a penalty for running wide, no grip, similar sort of style to Hulkenberg on the opening lap. That was on the restart, and he took Bottas with him, which dragged Bottas further away from the points. Now Valtteri down in 14th. Just ran out of grip when he got down to this first corner, carried in loads of speed. And then you can just see, just jostling the steering wheel, just jockeying it through his hands, trying to find a bit of grip, but you can't straighten up because you're going to clout the guy on the outside.
Yeah, I guess a number of factors there. Car still heavy with fuel, pulling on a slightly narrower line, and then maybe slightly misjudged the braking point. And all of that leads to the rear end wanting to come round and visit the front.
Lewis Hamilton closing in on Sergio Perez for 7th place, but now fully under investigation for that false start. And once again, Yuki Tsunoda trying to shut the door. And if it's straight line speed problems that Fernando Alonso has, he's got plenty of grip to go around the outside again. And first Magnussen, then Gasly, and now Fernando Alonso go the long way round to take the place away from Yuki.
Track limits at turn 1 on lap 10, which was 3 laps ago, probably when you passed Tsunoda.
He pushed me out there.
Yeah, it's just track limits at the moment, but it is under investigation.
I wouldn't be telling the driver that. That was, Magnussen is a track limit. It may get investigated for overtaking off the road, although K-Mag's argument is pretty fair there that he was pushed wide. If I was a race engineer, I just think I'd leave him until there's a penalty. You don't need to bother the driver that's up in 9th having a great race with that sort of information. It'll just annoy it.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, and there's no question it was in the heat of a battle. It wasn't that, you know, he ended up there and then managed to maintain his position. It's not he did the overtake there and gained an advantage. So we will see, but the stewards are being kept plenty busy.
They are indeed. New fastest lap of the Grand Prix for Charles Leclerc, who is now 1.5 seconds ahead of his teammate. Oscar Piastri choosing to run 0.6 of a second away from George Russell as it stands. We're looking at Zhou Guanyu closing in on the RB of Yuki Tsunoda. Sauber searching for their first points of the entire year. They haven't scored in Formula One since this race before, and again rolling by, no contest at all, and another position lost for Yuki Tsunoda.
This corner, turn 1, is actually proving to be, you know, one of those little gems in a Grand Prix circuit. Yes, they've got DRS, but they've got the ability to take a different line and make it stick.
If you're against Yuki Tsunoda, which is what everyone's doing. There's not been a lot of overtaking opportunities further ahead. Piastri's still stuck behind Russell. You've got Hamilton within DRS range of Perez. When you get one opportunity, I do like that you can go inside or outside. When you're Yuki Tsunoda in this race, having got yourself up into 9th position, it's just so demoralising. Lap after lap, his straight line speed doesn't look great, but that's DRS and a slipstream. And then when you got a Sauber that hasn't scored a point, screaming around your outside as well, with the latest beauty of a move, oh, it's tough stuff for Yuki.
Fastest lap of the Grand Prix to Lando Norris with the fastest final sector as well to get the gap down out front to 1.7 seconds.
Interestingly, Russell's dropping back at this stage.
Man, I'm pushing 100%, bro.
I know, man. Hang in there. Hang in there.
You'd hope so. With the way that he's dropping back, you hope he's not cruising. But it's just a little bit of a painful one, this one, for the team and for the driver sitting in there, just taking the beating at the moment. And Valtteri Bottas has DRS and will be the next man to chance his arm around the outside of Tsunoda. Russell, we wondered if he might be the pace man, didn't we, after the sprint yesterday? He was hustling behind the McLarens, had pole by virtue of Verstappen's penalty, but as yet he's just dropping back away from the top two. Verstappen is comfortable enough. Norris has just done the fastest lap though, so they're measuring each other up at the front and just slowly drifting away from George Russell.
You see Piastri now definitely putting pressure on Russell, and they'll be managing tyres. Anyone's got a little bit of micro-graining, they'll be hoping they can run through it and get to clean. If not, it's just a question of how long do you want to hold out on track, losing performance, before you come and serve for a new set of tyres.
Difference in day makes as well. This was roll reversed. Oh,
nearly. He goes wide at turn 16, but he avoids the gravel.
He was closer than he had been there. That was Oscar 0.6 away in a fast corner, trying to stay as close as possible to get a DRS opportunity, and that just meant he had more dirty air than he was used to and found himself with no rear downforce. He did well to actually save that one.
Yeah, brilliant reactions. He really had to saw at the steering wheel to not have the car completely rotate. Here's the outside view. And it happened actually towards the middle of the corner, so just as he's approaching sort of maximum load on that rear tyre.
He's close. He knows there's an opportunity coming, so he's trying to turn the car slightly later, get a late apex, straighten it up and get on the gas early, but in the maximum load part, the rear not happy and he just steps out.
There's Tom Stallard, Piastri's race engineer, who's been talking to him throughout the season, a season where he became a Grand Prix winner for the first time. Winner of the sprint race yesterday is the man who had no pace in the sprint race yesterday, our race leader.
Let's check pressures, tire pressures. The way I drive, picture is likely.
Pressures are fine, Charles, for now. Pressures are fine.
So that, from a driving point of view, you get a feeling sometimes that the car starts to pull to one side, and that can be the feeling you get if you've got a deflation in one of the tyres. But otherwise, I'm trying to think what other feeling can he have other than it pulling.
I think he said the way I'm driving, we're likely to get a puncture, which is a strange one. Is he abusing curbs in the high speed? Is it that sort of thing? We've had that a few years ago where the left front, which takes so much load, gave up on a couple of drivers late on in the Grand Prix. He is pressing on Leclerc. He's slightly quicker than the two ahead of him and is still just 2 seconds back, so he's not out of contention.
It's a curious one. I'm glad you two gave the answers first, because it wasn't immediately apparent what he was talking about on the radio. It is worth saying the curbs compared to 21 and 23 have been remodeled for this year, and they've placed strips of gravel on the outside of 7 of them, including right here. We're on board with Gasly, who's chasing down Kevin Magnussen for 9th place.
Yeah, Gasly in a phase of his performance where he's able to run relatively close and not lose any time. So he's definitely moving himself into position as they race their way around 8-9 in the middle of the lap here. So expect him to be in a DRS pass position when they get on the main straight.
We're kind of into the slow burn phase of the race now, with Gasly being the main man looking to try and move forward. Everyone else has found their rhythm, found their position, as Verstappen does the fastest lap, just nearly 2/10 quicker than Norris on the last lap. Russell's still being distanced out front, so it's heading more and more to a Verstappen-Norris showdown, which is a mouth-watering prospect in 2024. And let's hear from Hamilton.
How slow we compare to the others?
So front runners are mid-25s.
Mid-25s. The second.
Well, Lewis Hamilton not happy with the information that he's hearing on the radio. For reference, Verstappen did a 25.0 out front of the field last time around. Verstappen leading this race by 1.7 seconds. Hamilton about to come over the line. He did a 26.4 the last time he completed a lap. It's a 26.4 again this time round.
I wouldn't tell him that it's now a 1.5 seconds, actually, Lewis.
Yeah, that might just send him over the edge. But notable mention for Checo Perez, because Lewis had got closer to Perez earlier in the Grand Prix. That gap has now opened up to almost 2 seconds. So Perez having, I'd say, a stronger Grand Prix than he has had in the past.
Better. You know that the interesting thing with Perez yesterday was he was further away from Verstappen in terms of pace than he was in sprint qualifying when he was out in SQ1. The gap was actually bigger, and Max was on the fastest, was on pole until he had the penalty, and Checo was 9th, but the feeling was at least he was back in Q3. Largely that was because Red Bull moved forward by such a big amount. When Max was 6th, it was difficult for Checo to make Q3. Still 7th place with his teammate controlling things. It's a bit of a gap.
No tyre update so far, tyres as per model.
Yeah, I'm pushing flat out, so I feel like I'm killing them, but they seem okay-ish.
They're matching each other still out front, and they are about 0.8 of a second, 1 second per lap quicker than Perez.
Sounded intense on the radio, didn't it? As we see Yuki Tsunoda trying to block Valtteri Bottas, but again, the RB just doesn't have any sort of pace, and it's another position lost. The driver who had done so well to make all the places off the line finds himself tumbling back down the order once again. And poor old Yuki's back where he started in P14.
Well, good on him for trying to defend the inside all these laps. He still wants to try and keep the place. He's not going to make it easy for anyone, but another strong move from Valtteri Bottas, finding the grip on the outside line, and another tough one for Tsunoda.
For any of our newer fans watching at home, what is it about this circuit that is so tough on the drivers? We heard Lando Norris slightly out of breath there, responding to his race engineer.
Just the nature of the medium and high-speed corners, where you have speed. You know, the downforce is the square of the speed. So when you have an averagely high-speed circuit, then you're pulling sustained Gs, and the long corners as well. So, you know, head and helmet together, it's putting incredible force on the neck.
Over 5 Gs they're pulling through 12, 13 and 14, and it's 3 corners. It's a triple apex right-hander, really.
Explain that feeling, because the only thing I can say on really big braking circuits would be it's kind of like a sledgehammer hitting you on the back of the head when you get that spike of input. It's different in lateral because it comes in a little bit softer, but eloquently explain to us.
But it holds there for longer, doesn't it, in lateral? It's like someone's grabbing your head and just forcing it to one side as hard as possible, and you've got to resist just with pure neck strength. And they're doing that lap after lap after lap. I would describe driving a Formula 1 car as like being in a roller coaster that you're in control of. The forces are just wild, but then you've got to be on top form and understand exactly what you're doing with everything as well. And with this circuit, all of these right-handers, this is the final turn here, is another medium to high-speed right-hander. It's going to be putting the drivers through their paces today, even though it's cooler. The track's quick, which means you've got more grip, you're going quicker through the corners. And it's also going to be hurting the tyres a little bit on that left front.
Just trading times, Verstappen, Norris flatlining at 24.9, both of them. So that gap fairly consistent. As you see, Valtteri about to dip a wheel. Yeah, there's been plenty of that. So, you know, where do we sit with the gravel and the exit of the corners? It's definitely stopping them sort of opening the steering. It's a bit dusty and messy though.
What would you do with it?
Anti-dust gravel?
Well,
Glue it down like Zandvoort.
Yeah, they do that in Zandvoort, don't they? It kind of works there. But the problem is that would just be rubbered in if that was on the outside here. The gravel that's there is working well to stop drivers going off track, isn't it? I'd still like just a conventional gravel trap. It's nice to see a car get beached once in a while. Especially when you're not in it.
When you're not in it, yeah, absolutely. It's frustrating, isn't it, if you spin into gravel and then that's it, you're beached, you're out. Whereas if you spin onto a big tarmac runoff, you might flat spot your tyres, but you're still in the game.
Okay, let's go through the top 10 then, with Pierre Gasly just outside of DRS range for Kevin Magnussen. Then a big gap. Lewis Hamilton's been sitting at 2.7 seconds back from Sergio Perez. He's trying to score a top 5 today. It's been a long while since he got back there. He's got the 2 Ferraris ahead. Oh my word, Oscar Piastri is living dangerously when he goes through the 16th and final corner of the racetrack. His teammate's just done the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far.
He's confident, isn't he, to keep being in that dirty air, to keep pushing to the point where, you know, looking like he's absolutely on the ragged edge, not getting the efficiency of clean air over his wings. But no mistakes from George Russell.
He's having to experiment in that final corner, Oscar. Russell is slow in the fast corners. He's maybe managing the tyres, or he's just already damaged the front left, and that's where Piastri is getting closer and closer. It means he's kind of in a position to attack at the final corner, but then he's finding the dirty air in a fast corner, and he's either losing it on the entry, or he's just risking it on the exit, hanging on. And this was on the curve on the outside there, which just spat the car momentarily, cost him a slight bit of momentum. Without that might be a track limits as well for him. But without that, he potentially could have had an attack, and he forced George to turn in slightly earlier at the first corner.
It would be an overtake that put McLaren in position to win the Constructors' Championship tonight. As it stands, if Piastri can find his way past George Russell and the Ferraris remain where they are, but long way to go. Lap 23 of 57.
Russell's pace is really, really poor right now. He's 0.7 of a second, a second a lap slower than the front 2, and now he's going to pit.
So he's going to get the advantage of going on to the fresher rubber first. He'll have to take that rubber longer than everyone else, but it looks like the rest of the field are thinking about the time to bring in the cars. Russell first, our pole sitter, who faded to 3rd place at the start, gets a new set of Pirelli tyres, and it's not quick. It wasn't quick on the front right. It wasn't quick on the front rear.
No, and they would have seen a window of opportunity in front of this group here with Magnussen. And I think he's going to come out now behind these guys, where without that slow stop, he would have slotted out in front of them.
Yeah, they were aiming for the gap, a gap that has disappeared. 7 seconds stationary for Russell, and that could really hurt his Grand Prix. Piastri, all the invention he was having to show, and Mercedes have gifted him the position.
How far are we off the front, man?
So 1.2 to the front.
Is the car broken or just...
We're just underbalanced by the look of it, Lewis, just underbalanced.
Underbalanced. I'm familiar with out of balance or no balance, but that's just a posh way.
Understeer is the convention of saying it. Underbalance, they need a bit of more front wing angle at the next stop to get the front of the car to turn.
But Lewis is an experienced enough driver to know where his car is. You know, if the car's balanced, then it's balanced and, you know, you get on with your job. If it's out of balance, you would expect to be losing lap time.
Yeah, I think Bono right now is scrabbling for answers, isn't he? When you're being asked the question by a driver that's just had such a difficult weekend, how do you give that response? You know, 1.2 seconds, you know you're only going to demoralise Hamilton even more there. 7th place, actually dropping away from Perez now as well. But interesting, that's understeer then, that Pete Bonington's saying to Lewis Hamilton, which I think is exactly what Russell had as well, which is why they've had to pit early. He was slowing through the fast stuff, trying to protect the left front. And the more you have understeer, the more you're just sliding the front tyres and damaging it. So both Mercedes, I think, suffering from the same issue.
As you can see, McLaren in position to do enough tonight to win the Constructors' Championship, to take that crown away from Red Bull. It would be their first win this century as Bottas comes in. It's had an eventful day of it. In the points here last year, scrambling for a gear, finds the gear, 2.4 seconds, but slow on the release of the clutch there, and back into the fast lane he goes. 17th in the order. Still 1.9 seconds, 1.8 seconds between Norris and Verstappen. High pressure pit stop coming the way of both Red Bull, who have the fastest pit stop all year long at 1.9 seconds, and McLaren, who are hoping to be celebrating long into the night if they can secure the positions that they're in at the moment.
The gap there between McLaren and Sainz, remember several laps ago, Sainz was right within DRS of Leclerc, so whether he's decided to just back off and get some clean air, but it does make him a little bit vulnerable to the traffic behind if he was to pit.
Leclerc's going quickly as well. He's just done his best lap of the race on the last lap, which is 1/10 slower than Verstappen, who's just done his best lap of the race out front. So the Ferrari in 4th is now as quick as anyone. Now they're not running at George Russell's pace, and he's going to be set to leapfrog Russell as well with the slow stop of Mercedes.
7 seconds stationary for George Russell. On average, it's about 3 for a modern Formula One pit stop, and we're on board with the driver who started this race in pole position after Max Verstappen had a 1-place penalty after the results of qualifying.
It's a great angle there. See them riding the curbs as much as possible, using all the track.
He's stuck in traffic though as well on the new tyres. This is not what he needed. The slow pit stop has shuffled him away from the zone that Mercedes were trying to put him out into. And it's Fernando Alonso ahead. So even though George is out on a new set of hard tyres, they take some warming up, which we know after the first corner from Nico Hulkenberg is the guinea pig. He's done that now. He needs to try and clear Fernando Alonso in 10th because he's not going any quicker than those that have stayed out at the moment.
Yeah, and I thought we were just going to stay on board there as we're going to get into this fantastically fast section, 12 through 15. And George will be trying to get himself in position to, well, certainly get DRS and get a pass on Fernando down into turn 1.
Fernando Norris having a very fast couple of sectors to complete his last lap.
Slowly beginning to turn, but not much.
Copy, Lewis. Yep, start seeing it now.
So as the fuel burns away, the handling coming back to Lewis Hamilton. At least that seems to be what he's reporting on the radio. Either way, he's trying to close in on Sergio Perez as his teammate, George Russell, tries to close in on Fernando Alonso.
Well, whatever Fernando was complaining about straight line speed earlier in the Grand Prix, a DRS open Mercedes behind him against the Mercedes-powered Aston Martin wasn't. I thought he would get the pass done. Fresher tyres, you know, quicker car. Fernando with a straight line speed problem.
And there's Russell on the radio reporting the same issue. The car's not rotating in the way that he wants.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating. Now he's in the dirty air as well, which never helps things, trying to get the front end in. So the fast corners are at the end of the lap. You come through the triple right hand, and then you've got a quick left, and then that final corner that was causing Piastri the issues when he was sitting behind Russell. Now Russell's finding the same thing sitting behind Fernando Alonso. I'm still surprised that the new tyres aren't giving him enough to come past the Aston Martin ahead. Little whack of the downshift on his way through 14 this time. That was pinned in qualifying. And now let's see if we ride on board with George, as we don't, for the final corner. But let's see if he can have a better run this time to pass Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, Kevin Magnussen comes in for a crucial pit stop in the battle for 6th place in the Constructors' Championship. That releases Pierre Gasly, who'd been a second away. Looking at a very tight battle between Russell and Alonso on the road, but no real impression again, despite the fresher rubber, for the driver that started this race at the front. There's the end of Magnussen's pit stop.
The Mercedes has been quite quick in a straight line compared to the other contenders at the front as well. It was quicker than McLaren in the sprint, and was decent at racing. I mean, how many times was George attacking Oscar as well? But he's making no inroads on Fernando.
Yeah, very strange to go on board with Lewis Hamilton. And he was saying that he's picking up some front grip. Oh, well, on power, that increase in front grip coincides with a drop-off in rear grip. He didn't look like he was particularly offline.
Just trying to chase the throttle, getting closer to Perez again. He's just done his personal best lap of the race when he had that snap, and just chasing it too much.
Kind of sums up a lot his season. You know, it doesn't look like the car's talking to him and he's able to influence it.
It's been on a knife edge all the time for him. Vegas was just such a stark example, wasn't it? He's having to find the absolute sweet spot in this car that Russell's finding so often in the other car. George is able to drive around a wider parameter, whereas Lewis, when he gets it nailed, he can find the pace, but it's just not coming easy.
Again, this time George Russell has the DRS, but he's not able to get alongside. Look for that inside line, as he did plenty of times in the sprint race yesterday, unable to get through. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen was going through traffic. He was just past Valtteri Bottas. He lost a couple of tenths to Lando Norris as he did so.
And this is the nail on the coffin for George's race at the moment. He's going 0.8 of a lap slower than Carlos Sainz in 5th. He just cannot make any use of these hard tyres, stuck in behind Fernando. Running in 10th, has pitted, but right now those that haven't pitted are just extending. Piastri still with a personal best lap on the last lap, and they're going to have fresher tyres for the end of the race as well.
Well, this is the result of that poor pit stop, the right rear not coming off, and again highlights when everything works beautifully in a pit stop. We can take it for granted, you know, these sort of just over 2 second pit stops, but it is a perfect example of human performance when it works. And of course, it's a nightmare as we see a mirror. Easier for you to see than me.
Has come on the main straight, which is why we had a yellow flag. Norris was able to get past the traffic far quicker than Verstappen was. It's where you catch the traffic on the lap, and that gap came down momentarily to 1.1 seconds. It's stabilised at 1.3 now. Will we need a virtual safety car to deal with that mirror on the main straight?
That's exactly the question I was going to ask. Under normal conditions, you'd certainly just go racing, and you wouldn't expect that to do a lot of damage if it was to be hit by a car.
And I'm pretty sure you're going to tell me where to go, but if you had any pace to get...
Speak louder, please.
You'll tell me where to go, but if you had any pace to Verstappen, we'd take it, push up through him.
It's great entertainment. It's like, were we not talking yesterday about how good the communication systems are in modern Formula One cars?
They'll have to be, with the message.
So was that Albon? Was that the Haas?
It was either the Williams or the Haas.
They've both been whacked in the Grand Prix, so it could have been either, both on the first lap. If I'm Norris, I'm just saying, just give me the message. Don't try and give these other things. They're so convoluted.
Get to the point, I think, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't get every team radio message, it's worth saying. We do only hear a select through, a few that get played to us throughout the Grand Prix. So maybe Lando has been in intense discussion, but only when Valtteri Bottas was in front of Verstappen and he caught him in the first sector, the first 5 turns of the racetrack, before getting out of the way, was Norris able to pinch into that brink of DRS. The gap has been, for the majority of this Grand Prix, around the 2 second, 1.5 second mark. It's going to mean that the pit stops are going to define who wins this one.
Check if you lifted for the yellow. There was a yellow in the middle of the straight.
Yeah, there was. We'll have a look. Make sure he lifted. Lando did not lift.
Oh, you report that then.
So is that a yellow board that we're seeing illuminated on the left side of the start-finish?
Yeah,
and that'll explain why on that last lap we had half a second being taken out of his lead.
He's just done the fastest lap as he comes through that time. It looks like there is a yellow board, or is it a slippery surface board for the bit of debris?
It is definitely, the boards are definitely illuminated down the main straight. They've left it there. They don't want to intervene, I imagine, at this stage because of the stage of the race that we're in. But they're not intervening and clearing up the debris. There is a slippery surface flag. The problem is that it also includes yellow, as does, obviously, the yellow flag that Max Verstappen was messaging on the radio.
Now, if anyone was watching us in the commentary box, all 3 of us stood up, looked out the window as if one of our eyes were going to be better than the others. Could we just delegate someone to look out the window in future?
And did we get a clear answer?
Not really.
Not between any of us.
No. We're at pit entry, for your reference. It's not easy to see whether it's a full yellow or whether it's a slippery surface flag. Either way, Max Verstappen asking the team. He's just looking for every single option, but I think it speaks to the gap. I think it speaks to 1.8 seconds and knowing that Norris has the option of going long or going in 1 lap earlier, and the offset could be enough to switch the lead here. Hulkenberg was trying to run an alternative strategy, had contact at the first turn, and now rejoins the race as he gets back out there. 3 retirements in the Grand Prix so far. Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon and Franco Colapinto. Ocon and Colapinto went no further than the first turn. We've had spins, contact. Alex Albon was spun around. Liam Lawson rotating as well. This is Lando Norris heading on to the main straight.
So that is the flag in question on the outside. There was a yellow flag as well on top of this, and Lando did get the gap down to 1.1 seconds. Let's listen in then as he's going to blast past this.
Check the board.
So he's pinned there, but I'm sure that's a slippery, so I think that's a yellow and red flag rather than a yellow, and there was no yellow.
Max asking the team to check it, the team telling him that there was no lift. And Max making the point to lift there. Charles Leclerc's got the gap down to Oscar Piastri at around 1.6 seconds. Let's see if he can continue to make that forward progress. We are looking on the left-hand side at George Russell, who is still stuck behind Fernando Alonso.
And Max is making his move right now as well. 6 tenths quicker than Lando on the last lap. The gap's 2.5 seconds. So if McLaren had a chance to try an undercut or something in the pits, it's ebbing away from them right now.
Yeah, that's a clear indication that it's not going to be much longer before he heads to pits. And then that mirror has been hit. Was that Sauber? And has it done any damage?
Yeah, it was a Sauber running over the mirror there. So that was left on the racing line. And has been obliterated by running over it.
Well, you could be sure if you left it there, someone would hit it. That's the one overtaking place on the circuit. We've seen cars running over that bit of track all the time. It was Bottas that swiped it, so it's now in many, many pieces.
So he has to move over as per the rule book. As he does so, he's going to collect the mirror.
Yeah, and it's pretty thin, pretty light, so I wouldn't expect too much damage. That said, that looks like a lot of debris from below Hamilton's
puncture for Lewis Hamilton off the road, and the front left has gone for Lewis Hamilton as he rejoins. Sparks from the underside of the car because all the tyres aren't inflated, and Hamilton has the puncture. The curbs have been changed this year, And now, can he get it back? Are we going to need an intervention? Is the debris on the circuit crucial phase of the Grand Prix?
Well, it coincides with all those shards of carbon fibre being deposited all over the start-finish straight as Bottas creamed through that
Another one this time for Carlos Sainz. The mirror on the racing line, and Carlos Sainz has a puncture. 2 cars on 1 lap as Piastri comes into the pits. Crucial stop for McLaren.
Yeah, this is clear sign that no one can take a risk now, and the pits are going to get busy.
Well, I wonder if we got another car, I wonder whether you'd have to neutralise the race so that everyone had a chance to inspect tyres. A crucial move. Perez goes through to 4th. Piastri on pit exit will come through. You can see the shards of carbon fibre just at the back of that pit exit line. Max Verstappen called to the pit lane. Carlos Sainz has made it back, and it's a slow stop for Ferrari.
Are they doing the nose, or it came off the jack? That's why it was slow.
Well, this is the Constructors' Championship fight ebbing away from Ferrari right here, right now.
Verstappen and Norris separated by 2.6 seconds. We have had a change of race director in recent times. Rui Marquez is running this Grand Prix on lap 35, and we now have a full safety car. So Piastri pitted, he's on the hard, and Verstappen and Norris are flashing by. Do they make it to the pits? Verstappen does, and Norris does as well. They go past the commentary position as Hamilton comes back to the pits.
Just means I have this luck, man.
He needs a change of scenery. He is moving to Ferrari. One more race, one more defining race with Mercedes, and he's rewritten what can be done with a team in Formula One. Verstappen got a 2.5 second stop. Norris got a 3.3 second stop, both of them coming in at the same time. You've got to bring the cars in there. You can't take the risk of a puncher. Charles Leclerc comes in as well. The full safety car deployed after 2 cars had a puncher on the same lap, Sainz and Hamilton.
You would think it's linked to the debris on the track. It would be an incredible coincidence if it was just mileage on those tyres.
I think it might be both. I think they were both the left front, so I think you wear the tyre down, which makes it more vulnerable to a puncture. A fresh tyre gives you more meat, more rubber on the tyre, which makes it more puncture resistant as well. So it might possibly be a really worn left front that's a little bit more vulnerable. Then you scattered carbon fibre all over the track, and then you sort of seal the fate with that. I think that's why others started to pit, like Piastri there, before the safety car was called.
Check if it's all okay with the front left tire. Doesn't feel okay.
Copy. RB8.
It's a bit of damage.
Sainz reporting the feeling is not what he wants it to be. George Russell has come in again for another stop, put a fresh set of tyres on, and the pit lane is alive right now. Everyone coming in for the fresher rubber, and you've got so many cars currently in the pits. Russell comes to the pit exit, Alonso the same as well. Zhou Guanyu is in there, and Sainz in 8th position. Zhou Guanyu exiting the pits in 10th place, and that would be Sauber's first points of the year if that result held, and we'll never know which way Norris was going to go in response to Verstappen.
Big day for Alpine. 21 laps to go. We're under safety car conditions. It's still going to be another couple of laps, or certainly a lap before we go again. And Gasly's pitted at the perfect moment to get his Alpine into 6th on merit.
They all bunch up behind the safety car. Lap 36 of 57. The wing mirror came loose, sat in the middle of the track for a number of laps, was then collected by Valtteri Bottas' Sauber as he was letting a Ferrari go by to lap the car, and then Sainz having the puncher, Lewis Hamilton having the puncher, and McLaren in position to win the Constructors' Championship today. As a result, safety cars through the pit lane.
Why have we put hards on? Why have we put the hards back on, mate?
Not the best review of the Pirelli hard tyre from George Russell there.
No, the wheels are on the wagon, but the wheels have come off the strategy wagon, in that clearly there wasn't a communication there. He's been called to box and assumed wrongly. And this is surprising, actually, that the Sauber team didn't make him aware that there was debris in the track. I would expect that information from my engineer.
As to why they've pitted again?
No, excuse me, I'm talking about Bottas hitting that mirror. I would have expected my engineer to say, debris on the track at a certain point going into the first corner. So you're at least aware of it. It looks like he just blindly pulled over and to allow the cars to go past and then picked up that debris.
Yeah, it'd been there a few laps as well, so you wonder if he might have spotted it at some point. I still think it's an inevitability that someone would hit that. It's the one place that you can really overtake. You can make a difference into that corner. It wasn't right on the inside. It was nicely on the middle of the road. If it wasn't going to be Bottas, it was going to be someone else, I think, in this one.
You just see there when the car had slipped off the jack, and that slowed everything down a bit more.
It was already a tough time for Sainz, having had to go most of the lap on the puncture, as did Hamilton. So I'd be miffed if I was Russell as well here. This is going to be...
We're on board with him now. Fernando Alonso would be ahead, not for much longer. Finally, the pass for George Russell. That's how he got by.
Yeah, so we finally got it done, and then pitted, and then they put another set of hards. He didn't like the hards, found a load of understeer. So if you're going to take a second pit stop, the hard tyre will go to the end. He didn't have to take another pit stop, but he chose to at least put the faster tyre on to go to the end, but Mercedes have stuck with the hards. So Russell is now bang on kilter with everyone else, having put the hard tyre and made 2 stops.
Anything on that yellow flag? Or you can just go flat out yellow?
Literally just speaking about it now, Max. Stand by.
So, I don't love to hear this, the whinging and trying to get other people penalised. When Max is winning the race, he's in control of his own destiny. He's won the championship already. I don't love to hear these radio communications, but what I think it shows is this is a guy that was penalised 1 grid position for something really innocuous yesterday. And now he's on the warpath, isn't he, with the stewards? And now he wants everyone penalised for every little thing.
What up there, man?
Magnussen running side by side with Alonso, and Alonso getting the place to drop the Haas out of the points.
That's the traction of a medium tyre compared to a hard tyre. Straight on pit release, and Alonso jumps ahead. And they will be wincing seeing where Gasly is and seeing these laps just clocking down behind the safety car.
So Max Verstappen has headed the race since lap number 1, took the lead at the start. Lando Norris nearly jumped from 3rd to 1st, but Verstappen had the inside line for turn number 2. Russell went early for a stop and then had a slow stop which dropped him back, and then the wing mirror coming loose, being hit by Valtteri Bottas, has led to this safety car period.
Yeah, the safety car, I'm going to assume, will be coming in this lap. Just looking at no marshals there cleaning up the debris. Well, no more debris on track.
So Bottas clouted the mirror, spread carbon fibre everywhere. Don't blame it on him, but he did it. And now his teammate is running in 9th position. Look, I'm not saying conspiracy in the slightest here, but I'm seeing that it's worked out rather nicely for... No chance. It's worked out nicely, though, for Sauber, who haven't scored a point all year, and now have an opportunity to do so on a hard tyre that will go to the end.
Hamilton speeding 100%. He just brake tested me again. I locked both my fronts. Potential double flat spot.
Well, your favourite piece of radio transmission, Julian, when they're appealing to the referee, aren't they?
The windjometer is off the scale today.
It feels like quite a lot of drivers out there need a holiday. We are in the penultimate Grand Prix of the year. The safety car will be down the main straight once again. We'll get some racing to show you before the end. Charles Leclerc back ahead of Oscar Piastri with the shakeout of all of those stops. Piastri in 4th, Perez in the top 5 as it stands. Gasly winning nicely as well in terms of the position of the cars and the timing of the stop. There's the man who went no further than the first turn of the first lap, Franco Colapinto, not finishing today, but not his fault. Just collected at the start of this one. And Russell not happy to find himself back on the hard tyres. How aggressive will Norris go? I'd started that sentence before he went very close to the back of Max Verstappen, but I think it's going to be a really intriguing restart here, because Lando Norris will want the win. Max Verstappen will want to prove once again that it doesn't matter if you chuck a penalty his way, he finds a way back to the front. And it might be contentious out there, but the Grand Prix win is still in the balance.
Yeah, I think that Lando will know enough about Max that if he's going to fight for this win, it's got to be in the opening laps of the restart, ideally at the restart. Yeah, just looking at the lap cars, they don't have to wait for them to get to the back of the pack, based on historical information, but they probably will. So we're going to have at least another lap of safety car, I would say.
I think they're going to get on with it, aren't they? They're going to...
You're right, yeah, there you go. They're not waiting for them.
They are. Subtle hints work, DC. They're getting on with it. That's what we all wanted to see, and we'll see the green flag fly in a few moments' time.
Yeah, it's just the Mercedes team of 2021 that are coming through to the back of the field. Hamilton and Bottas, both unlucky in that moment. They're the only 2 lap cars that are now released. There's going to be really low grip. The safety car, it feels like it's going so slow, especially when you're on a hard tyre that we know had warm-up issues and has had warm-up issues. It's not a very high grip tyre anyway, the best of times around here. So, low grip. Where do you pick your braking point for the first corner? You attack that first corner with a lot of load as well. You brake and turn at the same time. It's a medium speed, high speed exit as well. This is going to be the moment for Norris to try and make a difference.
Yeah, you can just see by the nature of the way. Look at Norris almost into the back of Verstappen there. That's him trying to get core temperature in through the brakes.
Yeah, really working the tyres. Leclerc, by the way, is third. He jumped Piastri because Piastri pitted before the safety car. Leclerc pitted at the safety car, so that's quite important for Ferrari. And with all of it, Sainz is still 8th, so he's got a chance to come through and keep Ferrari in the game.
Wasn't happy with the speed of the car overall, so the pace will be dictated by Max Verstappen. He chooses when we go back to racing speeds. On the last restart, Oscar Piastri was able to get past Charles Leclerc. Now, when does Verstappen choose to go by? Why is Perez dropping down the order on the left-hand side there? Has he had an issue, or is it just his transponder? Because he's tumbling down the timing tower on the left-hand side.
Stopped, according to the track map. Meanwhile, we're going to see a restart, or are we?
Either way, Perez has dropped down. That's not a transponder issue. Perez is no longer in the points. We are racing again in Losail. Perfect restart for Lando Norris.
Yeah, terrible restart for Max Verstappen based on his previous ones. He's under pressure.
Side by side we go for the Grand Prix victory. Verstappen versus Norris into turn 1, and they'll both be going deep. Verstappen hangs on to it. They went wheel to wheel again, and Verstappen hangs on to first place. Piastri gave it everything to get past Charles Leclerc. He couldn't get there. And Verstappen maintains the lead. There's still moves going on. They're still swapping it over. Can Leclerc hang on to it? He can. Piastri's still in P4. You've got Russell in 5th. Under pressure from Carlos Sainz. Verstappen elbows out once again.
Perfect defence from Verstappen. He didn't get the greatest restart, but you don't go around the outside of Max, and he kept it on the track as well through turn 1. Brave attempt from Lando, but it's not going to happen there.
Gasly gets past Sainz. He's up to 6th position. Sergio Perez, this is before we restarted. We're looking in the right-hand side. He said he lost drive and he lost the positions. The top 10 right now. And there you go, round goes Perez before we'd even had the restart, and we've now got a virtual safety car, which is good, because I don't know where to look. Verstappen leads from Norris. Into the gravel trap goes Nico Hülkenberg. And we were expecting a bit of a slow burner. Instead, we've had the 3rd ever Qatar Grand Prix, and there's been action from the off. Verstappen, Norris, then Leclerc, Piastri, Russell, Gasly, Sainz, Alonso, Joe and Magnussen. Hülkenberg's in the gravel trap. Perez stopped before he even got to the restart.
That was a curious restart from Max. I thought he started to go for it through 15, and then he obviously then bailed out of that, and then decided to try and do a sort of mid-turn 16 restart. Didn't really have the grip, and Lando was able to really be any slipstream.
Full safety car, as Perez's car is immediately carted off behind the barriers, but Hülkenberg stranded as well. Yeah, it looked like he went before 15. You're not supposed to go and then stop again, but Lando read that and it wasn't a big issue. But by that point, you kind of snookered, and he waited for the final corner, got the car straight. But Norris had fantastic traction as well, side by side into the first corner. And Max is going to have to think again if he wants to try and do that move. He held the inside, and it's so difficult to pass him on the outside. They had to judge how much grip there was going to be on the hards, and they both did it actually very well.
Yeah, well, of the 2 safety car restarts, then his first attempt worked much better, so expect to be a bit closer to that one.
Well, that all kicked off, didn't it? Max Verstappen and Lando Norris separated by nothing at 200 miles per hour. Grand Prix racing at its finest. They were always going to go deep into turn number 1. Let's have a look at it again. This is Sergio Perez. Let's listen in.
Was that loss of drive, or was that just a spin?
He looped it, didn't he? His hard tyre's not warming up. You could hear the rev spike as he went for it. That was driver error.
This was turn 1 on the restart. Verstappen, Norris, deep goes Gasly in the pink Alpine. Then watch for a wide moment for Charles Leclerc. Gives an opportunity for a couple of corners for Piastri, who nearly roared around the outside of 3, looking for 3rd place.
Yeah, some great wheel-to-wheel action there. I think there might have been a little bit of contact between Verstappen and Lando Norris.
And further back, George Russell, Carlos Sainz coming together. Gasly was able to reclaim the position that he lost by going deep into turn 1. This was Gasly sailing on by, on board with Russell.
Yeah, Gasly absolutely steams into that first corner on the hard tyres, fighting with the Mercedes. That Mercedes goes by, so does the Ferrari of Sainz, and Gasly's got him back.
The incident involving Lando Norris for failing to slow under the yellow flags has been noted, but no more than noted at this stage. They're having a look at it in race control. This was on the restart, way after that moment. Oscar Piastri, and that was close. We saw a battle for the lead, a battle for the final step on the podium. He allows the Ferrari to go deep, switches back, and then tries to sweep around the outside. Leclerc just had enough, as Norris is now fully under investigation for failing to slow under yellow flags.
Well, that is not normally going to end in a positive way, so we can expect a penalty for Norris.
And there's the moment for Carlos Sainz. He was battling up against George Russell, Pierre Gasly, who went deep into 1. Your luck can change quickly around this Qatar circuit, and there's the move to prove it. Safety car is in at the end of this lap, and we're still going through the replays of what happened on the last restart. That's Hulkenberg dropping the car, spinning into the gravel. It was a great sprint race for him. Ever since we went to the Grand Prix format, it's not been his weekend.
Medium tyre for Hulkenberg as well, but just attacking, trying to make the most of it. Round he went.
And that is what old school gravel is like when you spin into it. You're beach and it's game over.
Here we go again. Lando Norris is under investigation. All he can do at this point is try and get past Max Verstappen and let everyone else argue it, and they will be arguing about it. We never hear that team radio anymore, but it still goes on.
What position I'm in?
Currently P12.
Car's messed up, mate.
He's within hunting distance of getting some points. Albon and Magnussen in front of him.
The entire field's within hunting distance now. 15 left in it. Anyone can score points with the way that we've been going as we get ready for the next restart.
So when will Max Verstappen take us back to racing conditions? Verstappen, then Norris, then Charles Leclerc, and Oscar Piastri is our top 4. It can still be a day where McLaren win the Constructors' title. They back up. What an amazing picture that is. Now Verstappen chooses to go, and it's a better launch this time. But what sort of drive and grip does he have through turn 16? Norris is not close. This time he's under pressure. Norris is looking at the Scarlet Ferrari in his mirrors. Charles Leclerc will try and improve. Out of the slipstream he will go with 15 laps to go. Can Leclerc go the long way round compared to Lando Norris? He doesn't risk it. He allows Lando to pick his braking point, and he got it right. The top 3 as they were.
Yeah, it did look like he was going to try and do a cutback, but in the end he was struggling for grip on those hard tyres, and Lando well defended into the first corner. You can see Carlos as well, still weaving around, trying to get some heat while they're at this restart.
Yuki Tsunoda able to get past Lewis Hamilton. That will be a tyre warm-up thing. Tsunoda's on the softs, Hamilton on the white-walled hard tyre, and the RB fires past the Mercedes. Not important at the moment, only for 13th at the moment, but the way this Grand Prix's been going could yet be for points later on. Points currently occupied by Fernando Alonso, Zhou Guanyu and Alex Albon. Williams did not expect a point-scoring finish today. They've not been enjoying this circuit so far this weekend.
Check the front left. You can see sparks coming from it, and I have a vibration.
So sparks can only be coming from the end plate, they're going to come from the tyre. And Hamilton, we didn't see in all of that melee, lost a couple of places on that restart.
He's got those around him on the softer tyre, and that's meant it's got worse for him as well, fighting with Tsunoda and Bottas. The two of them were trying to unlap themselves, and now Hamilton's even further back.
Big lap from Norris to make sure that gap did not extend. Really strong, fastest final sector of the entire Grand Prix so far. There's only one DRS zone on the racetrack, and you're looking at it, 7/10 of a second for the lead of the Grand Prix.
We've seen quite a few times this year this situation, haven't we? Verstappen ahead of Norris. Through the race, Max has things under control, and then they get onto the harder tyre towards the end of the race. The fuel burns off as someone drops it into the gravel out of two, and Norris comes alive. I'm thinking Imola, I'm thinking Austria as well, where we had grandstand finishes.
There is a 10-second stop-go penalty. I'm going to start it again and read it again. It's a 10-second stop-go penalty for Lando Norris for failing to slow under yellow flags. You are watching Alex Albon fight his way, making contact up against the Haas of Magnussen, but that is a new race director, and that is a new type of penalty.
Albon just rammed me.
Well, that was a correct assessment from Magnussen, as Albon just, in attempting to do the pass, carried a bit too much speed. But that seems harsh. A 10-second
stop and go. So you've got to come into the pits.
Huge amount of time.
You've got to park up, you've got to wait 10 seconds, and you've got to go back out there. That is effectively a 35-second penalty for Lando Norris.
It's out of the points, given how many laps there's going to be left in this Grand Prix.
We've got a grandstand finish on the track, but that is going to be 0 point for Norris. I mean, that's the biggest penalty you can get without actually just disqualifying him.
So the stewards have recommended that. 4 stewards recommending that penalty, and that is what the information reads on our screen. You don't see many stop-go penalties, but we've got one tonight.
It's very, very confusing that for what we struggle to actually see, yellow flags are quite clear. You've got to show that you have not gained an advantage.
Lando has been given a 10-second stop-and-go penalty. 10-second stop-and-go penalty, which he needs to serve within 2 laps.
Verstappen getting that information on the radio. It ends the Grand Prix as a contest out front, but crucially in the Constructors' Championship, it sends us on to the next race. It sends us on to a decider because Norris is going to tumble out of the points.
So the stewards don't like it. Let's hear from him.
I know, we have been given a 10-second stop-go penalty, which we will take this lap.
He will not be expecting a 10-second stop-go penalty. In he comes.
I'm confused, gentlemen. I've been around this sport for 30 years, and it doesn't seem to fit the crime. No, clear yellow, no one in danger, no marshals there. Some penalty, yes, but 10 seconds?
Yeah, the stewards don't like it. Technically, is a safety issue. The yellow flag is out there because there's a car off. Actually, in that case, it was a bit of debris in the road. And it's about safety, and so you do sometimes see harsher penalties, but this one is the harshest of the lot. They have a 5-second penalty available, which Hamilton got for his jump start. You have a 10-second penalty available, which Stroll got earlier on.
For what?
Failing to slow under the yellow flag.
A stop-go is extreme. Beyond that, that's the most extreme thing they've got. The black flag isn't technically in the rule book mid-race, so even though one was shown to Hulkenberg earlier in the year, it's been that kind of season. It's an extreme penalty. It ends the Grand Prix as a contest. If you ignore yellow flags, you will get penalised, but race control and the stewards deciding that was a 10-second stop-go, and look at what it does to the Constructors' Championship. McLaren go from having one hand on the trophy to a title fight in their hands that goes all the way to Abu Dhabi. There is a drive-through penalty for Lewis Hamilton for speeding in the pit lane. So we've spun the roulette wheel with the type of penalties that we give out for offences, because it never used to be a drive-through for speeding in the pit lane.
Yeah, that was during the time when the safety car was going through pit lane, and that's where Lando complained that he nearly hit the back of him.
And also 25.5. Leave me alone, mate. I'm pushing.
He certainly is in 8th place. Sauber trying to score their first points of the year, and Zhou Guanyu on the attack, desperate to get there. This is a driver leaving Formula One. We expect him to be a reserve driver for a team next year, and he is desperately pushing to give Sauber their best day of the season. They haven't scored in Formula One since this race last year.
I'm staggered by Hamilton getting a drive-through for speeding in the pit lane as well. Really surprised by that one.
Is there a sort of independent body that we can write to and air our complaints and confusion?
I hear social media is fairly chilled out about these things. Kevin Magnussen. Oh, he's not going to go around the outside. He was barged out of the way before. And that was a look at how Alex Albon and him went racing. These two, gloves off stuff.
And this is even better news for Zhou, who's sitting up the road in 8th place. Sauber would be, they did love 1 point, but they're on for 4 at the moment. And the people that could come through and overtake him are getting swatted by the stewards.
Race control. Albon and Magnussen have been noted for forcing another driver off the racetrack. I think after this Grand Prix, you're going to be hearing about consistency.
Okay, looks we've got a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So it looks like he forgot to press the button on that first time behind the safety car.
Retire the car, park the car, mate.
Negative.
Oh, that is... Yeah, that's an awkward one. Lewis wanting to park the car, and a very clear instruction from the team. We are racers, we go racing. That is Lewis at his rock bottom of patience.
As Norris sweeps past for 14th and 15th. So that is what happened. Remember earlier on we had Lando on board, and he said something on the radio of Lewis stamping on the brakes in the pits. It's because Lewis was going too quick. So he suddenly realised that, hammered on the brake pedal, and that's why Lando had to react. It's a brain fade from Hamilton to do that. And you had to say for Norris as well, to not slow down for yellow flags. It's a big error from a driver that has aspirations of another title fight next year. He can't afford to be doing that, and it's going to cost McLaren a lot in this one. But it's the severity of the penalties that's under question here, not the penalties themselves. When you have these yellow flags, especially when you'll be told on the radio it's debris on the main straight, the drivers know they have to show that they lift off. So you just give a feather on the throttle. It really costs you no time. If you're good about it, you're clever, you have a feather, you have a lift off, and you lose, maybe it's 1/10 of a second, but it's not changing a Grand Prix. Lando absolutely should have done that, but he also would have known there's Lewis getting his wish there as well.
Here we go again between Albon and Magnussen. That is a roar around the outside. What a great move from a man heading out of Formula One in a week's time. But he's taken 9th place and has needed that because Gasly's up in P5 right now and getting Alpine back into position to take 6th place in the battle for the Constructors' standings at the end of the year. Here's the man in 2nd place, Charles Leclerc. I'm not entirely sure he'll be sure how he's got to 2nd place, but he's got Oscar Piastri just 1.1 seconds behind.
Yeah, there's been a few confusing decisions made by the stewards over the course of this weekend, and yeah, Hamilton, he had a little issue at the start, he's had an issue in the pit lane. I think he's just mentally at his lowest ebb, and he needs this to be over, and he needs to rebuild in the winter and hope that red suits him.
Yeah, Hamilton coming back to retire the car after getting a drive-through for speeding in the pit lane under the safety car. We saw Sergio Perez out of the race under the safety car. On the restart lap, we saw Hülkenberg spin off. That left us our final restart. And on lap 50 of 57, we have had so much to talk about. Look at what this result does for Alpine. And it puts them in a great position to claim 6th place, their season changing. But Sainz is definitely capable of fighting through and taking that 5th place. Magnussen making a crucial move on Albon, whose tyres will be fading. The incident involving Albon and Magnussen is under investigation. A lot has been under investigation. The typical type of penalties dished out for the rest of the season, upgraded in their severity tonight. A massive impact on the battle for the win. Max Verstappen is on his way to a 9th Grand Prix victory of the year and a first one in the dry since Austria in the middle of the season.
Nice one, Kev.
If ever a team radio message summed up a Formula One career, it's that one.
Absolutely. Look, Kevin has been controversial on occasion and arguably over-aggressive on many, but what a great racer when it all works for him. And we'll certainly miss his personality on track and off track. He's actually very mild-mannered off track.
He's a very chilled guy out of the car.
It's so strange. He's
your
calm,
old teammate, JP.
Yeah, had a great year with K-Mag in 2016. We got on very well until we were on track, and then he was trying to do anything he possibly could to get past me. It was he is a tiger on the track. Off it, he's a very nice guy, and he will be missed if he's not coming back on at some point.
Norris getting up to 13th. He's just got past Liam Lawson down into turn number 1. That's the move you can see on the left-hand side. Lap 51 of 57. We're looking at Verstappen ahead of Leclerc. Piastri is in 3rd, Russell in 4th. Then it's Gasly, Sainz, Alonso in 7th. Didn't love the straight line speed of his Aston. Feels like a long time ago. Would be first points of the season for Joe Guan Yu. Kevin Magnussen 4.2 seconds back on the hard tyre, and Albon potentially under investigation. Let's go on board with Oscar Piastri to see how close he is to the extremity of the circuit this time. Oh, that for Oscar, that's mild. He's nowhere near the gravel.
Yeah, that was
just a scrape.
Absolutely on the limit as he's pushing on to try and see if he can get himself into that window. And you can see, yeah, Zach Brown will have plenty to say. I'm sure there'll be a lot of frustration from the McLaren team over that penalty.
On that subject, just across the board, just want to go through the 3 big penalties that we've seen. Do you agree with Verstappen's 1 place, the stop-go for Lando, or the drive-through for Lewis Hamilton?
None of them.
Okay, there you go.
They're all baffling penalties this weekend.
Just wanted to get that one on the record. There'll be plenty to discuss after this Grand Prix.
And you thought it was controversial when I didn't agree with Lance Stroll's on the opening lap, didn't you?
Maybe we are sending Jolie to the steward's room after all. Another position gain for Lando Norris. He's up to P12.
So a couple of years ago, Charles Leclerc went for fastest lap in Spa in 2022. The Ferrari were competitive, and he got the fastest lap on the last lap, but he got done for pit lane speeding, coming through it to get it. The penalty on the day, a 5-second post-race penalty, which is what I would have expected for Lewis Hamilton now.
And the teams are racing knowing you've got to have an understanding of what the repercussions will be. I haven't seen a communication that, okay, from this race on, things are going to change. Things are going to be more severe. That hasn't been communicated, even if that has been an approach taken tonight.
No, consistency is key. It's never going to be easy to be the referee and to pass down penalties, but you cannot have the inconsistency that means that on a given day, someone is penalised more because of the way the wind's blowing.
It's a complete mess, isn't it, at the moment? There's going to be a lot of questions at the FIA. And we could have had a safety car for the incident in the first place.
Oh, Carlos trying to catch Pierre Gasly in another moment at turn 16. Sorry, John.
See Valtteri Bottas trying to get the other Sauber towards the points. Alex Albon's in 10th. Bottas fancies a nibble at it.
Oh my word, I thought he was going to roar around the outside and he had to bail out.
He's heading through now.
And he's got it done. Sauber, they're going to finish 10th in the Constructors' Championship. Here comes Lando trying to get by as well, and the points chance for Albon slips through his fingers.
Yeah, Bottas might not get that point either, because Norris has got something to prove in these last few laps, a few places to gain.
Yeah, he will. He'll make it to, definitely make it to Bottas. How well can he get further? How far is Magnussen up the road?
I don't think he'll be able to make up that gap unless Magnussen makes an error in the remaining time on track.
Every point counts though for McLaren still, so even though they're going to be outraged with what's happened, they're going to really need that extra point. They'll be happy with Gasly's job as well, keeping Sainz at bay still for 5th and 6th place. And all of this comes from the race director, Rui Marquez, in his second weekend. But you wonder if there could have been a safety car initially for that debris on the main straight. There was the yellow flag. Norris was wrong not to lift off for a yellow flag. Hamilton sped in the pit lane. We're not saying those weren't issues, and they should be black and white really for the stewards. It's the level of penalty that seems pretty random at the moment, and I think all the teams are going to be wondering, was this even handled right in the first place? when a safety car was inevitable when a driver mashed over that wing mirror.
Lando Norris massively fighting and getting past Valtteri Bottas. Crucially, that's good not only for, just see the graphic again, yeah, he has got the fastest lap, so crucially that gets him 1 point for 10th and 1 bonus point for fastest lap if things stay the way they are, and that helps McLaren, who thought they were going to the brink of a first title, but that's not going to, since 1998, but that's not going to be the case. So sequence of laps here, starting with the soft tyres fading for Alexander Albon, and then Valtteri Bottas getting through, but 1 lap later, Lando Norris taking the place away, and it will mean if it finishes like this, and I feel like I have said that a couple of times tonight, if it finishes this way, and it might not. Actually, I'm not going to continue that sentence because of this battle. We've still got a couple of laps to go. We've still got Carlos Sainz in the wheel tracks. Doesn't know whether to go to the left or the right. Still can't get past. And Alpine will be desperate for Gasly to stay where he is.
Yeah, it's big points for Alpine right now. And Sainz and Ferrari need those points as well. 2 for either team is huge. The difference between 5th and 6th. And Gasly there defended pretty nicely in that position, got to the middle of the road. Sainz didn't know if he was going to go inside or outside in the end, couldn't commit right from the inside. Yeah, managed to hang on to that 5th place. The laps are ticking down. Norris will get another point now for the fastest lap.
Yeah. So into the top 10, you must be in the top 10 to get that bonus point for fastest lap. Lewis Hamilton, box to retire the car was the call. He decided to carry on out there. He's up to 14th place. And Max Verstappen leads this Grand Prix by 6.2 seconds. He's just done his personal best middle sector of the entire race so far. The man who has been on a really unusual run, a 4-time world champion, but no win in the dry when it comes to a Grand Prix since the Austrian Grand Prix back in the summer. We're on board with Lando Norris, and we're scraping through the gravel on a night where he was hoping for another Grand Prix win. Would only have been his 4th in Formula 1. Instead, he's just fighting his way back through. George Russell's been noted for a safety car infringement, so this one's not done yet. And race control going through everything tonight. Penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. Can Sainz get more points for Ferrari and help out Haas and RB in their battle? That is confirmation of Russell's incident out front. Just a reminder, the Constructors' title, the Championship of the World for teams, is going to Abu Dhabi.
Who on earth knows what will happen with that Russell one? We don't know what that safety car infringement is yet, but we'll have no idea, if we do find out that he's guilty, what the punishment will be either for George Russell, who's in 4th, and actually is looking at the back of Piastri, still in the dying moments. They're still 2nd, 3rd and 4th all together.
Piastri giving it everything, trying to get within DRS on the final lap of the race. He's hovering a second away.
It's important for McLaren to get ahead of Ferrari at any opportunity, and this weekend was meant to be the McLaren weekend. This is the World Constructors' Championship that's up for grabs. Next week in Abu Dhabi, the circuit will suit Ferrari a lot more. They'll have a chance to come back at McLaren, and it will go down to the wire, I'm quite sure of it, with the points gap. They're good in low-speed corners. There aren't low-speed corners around this circuit. That's why they've been struggling a bit more. In Abu Dhabi, it's a big split, and Leclerc and Sainz are going to be gunning for the championship, and Sainz right now is still tucked in behind Gasly.
Crucially for Piastri, he got 1/1000th of a second away from Leclerc. He couldn't get within DRS range, and he's 9/10ths of a second away. There was DRS for Carlos Sainz, but he will have to pressure Gasly into an error as we work our way on the final lap of a dramatic Grand Prix, which we thought was going to see at one point McLaren crowned champions of the world. But it's not worked out that way, and it has been twists, it has been turns, but you've got to go all the way back to the 11th Grand Prix of the year, June the 30th for the last time that this driver, the world champion of 2024, reached the checkered flag first. He was up against Lando Norris for lap after lap. Lando was penalised for failing to lift under yellow flags, and Verstappen, aggrieved to be penalised and lose pole position yesterday, fights back to the front of the field. The Dutch driver will see the checkered flag first, and Max Verstappen cruises over the line to win his 9th Grand Prix of the year. Max Verstappen wins the Qatar Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc comes home in second place. Oscar Piastri completes the podium, and we will see you next week for a title fight between McLaren and Ferrari. The pole sitter George Russell finishes in fourth. Incredible points for Alpine as Pierre Gasly rises to fifth, and the points will be completed by Carlos Sainz, Fernando Alonso, and welcome back to the top 10, Zhou Guanyu and Sauber. They've finally scored in 2024. Magnussen and Norris complete the point scorers, and it's Max Verstappen celebrating under the floodlights of Qatar as the man not expected to be on the grid next year finds his way to a few points on the board. Sauber finally on the board in 2024.
That's a nice story, isn't it? All of their endeavours for the year are going to be rewarded with something, and a great job from Zhou this weekend. Said it was the best qualifying of his season yesterday to be in 12th. I saw the team practice in the pit stops just before they released the cars. They were the only one to be doing that. They obviously knew how much this race meant to try and get there with a car that's been upgraded, it's better. And driver of the day, P8 for Zhou.
Now, some penalties we didn't expect and some on-track passing and overtaking we did. Brilliant battles all the way through the field, and it's McLaren fighting Ferrari next week.
Karma is a wonderful thing. You definitely did not drive unnecessarily slowly today. Great job.
Simply lovely, guys. Yes, 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 yes. What an unbelievable race again. That was really fun.
Max, that was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You nailed it from the start, and on either the left or the right side, you'd have done it today. So absolutely outstanding. Your 9th victory of the year. That is quite an achievement. Well done, mate.
Simply a lovely evening again.
George Russell is under investigation for a safety car infringement. The fireworks are going off outside our commentary box. And there was a lot of Grand Prix packed in there for what we expected at the start. An absolute intense battle. There is Russell, who's got a 5-second penalty. So Russell gets a 5-second penalty, and he had a margin to Pierre Gasly of 7.6. So that is not going to cost him 4th position on the evidence of my timing page. No, it is. It is. He is not ahead, is he?
Yeah, he's ahead. He stays ahead of Gasly.
He will. He will.
So,
I just checking. It's been one of those nights. Yeah, it's like when we saw the stop-go penalty awarded earlier on. I was like, I'm just going to go back to the start because that cannot be a stop-go penalty, but it was. There we go. All sorts going on, and yeah, now the timing page updates. Okay, Max Verstappen parked up in front of the photographers and his team.
Could that be for Russell overtaking Perez as Perez was spinning under the safety car? Something like that George was either car behind Checo and didn't wait for Checo to properly spin and came through. We never saw anything clear-cut on that one.
Max Verstappen winning under the floodlights. That's how he started the season, and this is his 9th Grand Prix win. It's been a hugely competitive season. Charles Leclerc's taken 3 wins, Carlos Sainz 2, Lewis Hamilton 2, George Russell has been there on a couple of occasions, Lando Norris on 3 times, Oscar Piastri on a couple of occasions, but 9 Grand Prix wins for the world champion now this year.
And it was a superb drive. Got the start, held off Russell on one hand, held off Norris on the other. The first restart was a bit shaky with Lando, but still managed to get his elbows out and keep the place. It was a brilliant drive from Max and a sensational turnaround for Red Bull. They were down and out after the sprint.
Finishing behind a Haas.
Yeah, changed the car setup. Parc Fermé regulations doing their bit this year. And you're allowed now to change the car between the sprint and the race. And suddenly, they came back to life.
2nd place for Charles Leclerc. 3rd place for Oscar Piastri, 6th place for Carlos Sainz, and 10th for Lando Norris, which doesn't tell the story of the race. Means that McLaren lead by 21 points going in to the title decider in Abu Dhabi. The 3rd Qatar Grand Prix, throwing up story after story.
The top 3 all with a really solid drive today. Leclerc doing what he had to do to pick up the pieces. just felt like there was such an element of randomness in this one, with the penalties, with the safety car timing, with the punctures. So many things happened to various drivers that could have been in contention today. And it is going to be the FIA, I think, coming under a bit of scrutiny from the teams.
That'll be an interesting discussion as we head into the final week of the season. We know the driving rules and regulations, the code of conduct is going to be reviewed and changed for 2025 as well. And DC has run down from the commentary box. He is ready to speak to our top three. Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc, and our race winner today, Max Verstappen. Fastest lap of the race went to Lando Norris. He gets the bonus point for that because he climbed back inside the top 10. And Lewis Hamilton finishing out of the points. The debrief continuing. And in a few moments' time, we'll head down to Parc Fermé to get the thoughts of the top three. As we see the spectacular celebrations here for a country hosting just its third Formula One Grand Prix tonight, hosted the 2022 World Cup, and now it's going to host David Coulthard speaking to our top three, Piastri, Leclerc and Max Verstappen.
So Oscar Piastri, third place finisher in what was a very eventful race. Safety cars galore, penalties, and you had quite a few moments as you were in your own battle. We saw you working the wheel hard to keep the car on track.
Yeah, it was a tricky race. I think, you know, the cars at the front seemed to have very similar pace to each other, and it was really, really tough to make the inroads to get into DRS and then far enough into DRS to overtake. So a couple of good moments with Charles out there, and yeah, nice to end up on the podium, but not quite the result we were looking for.
Yeah, this does mean that this championship battle well and truly goes down to the final Grand Prix.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Lando's penalty was for, but yeah, obviously quite a big one. So yeah, going to be an exciting end to the year. I think you know, hopefully we can be strong, but it's going to take everything we've got to seal the deal.
A year ago, we saw you all exhausted at the end of this race. The safety cars have broken this one up, so physically a lot more controlled this year.
Definitely. I think just the temperature as well. You know, the track's a lot faster this year, so it should be tougher, but I think the fact that it's not a sauna in the car this year is making life a bit easier. So fun race, mega track. You know, it's probably the most fun of the whole year around here. So yeah, enjoyed the race, just not quite the result.
Great to hear you love the track. We'll leave you to go and enjoy the podium. So Charles Leclerc, second place in the end. So given the events of that Grand Prix, I guess you'll not be too disappointed with that result.
I'm really happy. I mean, honestly, I will have signed straight away if I had a paper that told me that we will finish second after a weekend like this, especially on a track like this, because our car characteristics is not fitting very well with this track, and we knew it was going to be a very difficult weekend compared to the McLaren, but at the end we managed to take some points away from them. So yeah, the fight will be all the way to the last race in Abu Dhabi next week.
We had that controversial moment with a couple of punctures. Your teammate picked up that puncture. Were you well aware of the debris on track? Were you in contact with your engineer?
Honestly, I don't know whether it was a debris or the way the curbs are and the way we need to ride the curbs. On the curbs, I just ignored it because I knew that there was too much performance in it, and I was just hoping to not have a puncture myself as well. For the debris, I was staying on the left in the straights, hoping that it wouldn't bite me, and it didn't. Hopefully, it's a shame for Carlos because obviously as a team it would have been great to be further up with Carlos. But yeah, it's the way it goes, and it's still a positive weekend overall for the team.
So given that you weren't expecting this circuit to be strong for you, as we go down to the wire for the constructors a week's time in Abu Dhabi, where do you see yourself in performance terms there?
It's difficult to know. I think we are all very close, so I think it's going to be very tight, but it's exciting. Yeah, 21 points is still a lot, but everything is possible and we'll give it all.
Okay, well, congratulations. Enjoy
Thank
the
you.
podium. And our race winner, Max Verstappen. It's been a while in completely dry conditions, but what a difference a day makes on the ropes and the sprint to leading this from the start. And what was not a dominant victory in terms of your battle with Lando, in the end, it was comfortable.
Yeah, it was a very good race. Of course, already yesterday in qualifying, the car was a lot better. And yeah, today, that first stint was very, very fast. Lando and I were just within 1.8 seconds of each other the whole time, pushing each other. And honestly, it was a lot of fun out there. This track has a lot of grip, and this year the tires are really holding on. So that was honestly a lot of fun to be, you know, really pushing the tire. And yeah, we went really long in that first stint. After that, of course, there were a few safety car moments that you had to take care. But yeah, very happy, you know, it's been a while in the dry to be this competitive, and very proud of everyone within the team, you know, to turn it around within a day. So they definitely also deserve this victory.
You mentioned the safety cars. It looked the first one you absolutely aced the restart. The second one, you put yourself under a lot of pressure, and it was some brilliant wheel-to-wheel action into turn one, and then you got the final one spot on. So was it like it looked? You just didn't quite get the traction in the second?
On the hard tires, there's very little grip. You know, you just come out of the box, so they're already cold, and then immediately, of course, we had the safety car. And behind the safety car, you can't warm them up. And then I tried something different out of the last corner, where I had no rear grip, basically. So I just struggled for traction out of the corner, and then it got a bit spicy into turn one, but I think that's great to see. And then, yeah, after that, we drove it to the end with good pace. So, yeah, very happy to win here.
We've got these three amazing races. You had your World Championship in Vegas. Here we are a week later, you're winning. And in 1 week's time, we're going to be in Abu Dhabi. Have you any idea where your performance will be? Because it seems so close between all of the main teams.
Yeah, it's difficult to say. Of course, the last 2 years, we've always been quite competitive there. So I hope we can be competitive again, but we'll pay attention to detail, you know, to try and optimize the car, and hopefully, yeah, we can fight for a win there again.
Well, look, you go and enjoy the podium. Congratulations on this fantastic victory. And ladies and gentlemen, in 1 week's time, we'll have the showdown for the Constructors' Championship in Abu Dhabi.
Nicely done, DC. Sets it up really nicely for a final round shootout between the two most successful teams in the history of the sport. Here's a man who's already got 4 World Championships. He'll be remembered as one of the greats, and from going from miles off the pace in the sprint to the head of the field by the end of the Grand Prix, victory for Max Verstappen for the first time in the dry since June, for the 9th time this season, and he's back on the top step in a few moments' time, back into the arms of his team. And they were posing for photos on the pit wall before they went out to the grid. They'll be posing underneath the podium for some more celebrations tonight. And the leadership, Max's family, his mum and his sister are down there ready to cheer a massive moment again. Cool down room time.
That one was... I had no grip.
Well, we tried. There's the winning car. Max Verstappen has been fighting that thing all the way through, but after they tried different settings with Sergio Perez, when it came to the sprint race yesterday, they unlocked performance. Verstappen found a time good enough for pole. Let's give this another go.
It's almost just luck whether you catch the snap right, and then you can just go. But also the lights on the safety car weren't going off. So the second one where we all went at the last corner, I think the second one.
I couldn't understand.
I had no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah. Same. You were saying what was going on with the safety car lights?
Yeah, they were broken.
Yeah.
That's why I got a bit confused, you know, because I was like, what should I do?
Yeah.
Because of course I knew that they would go out. Oops. I knew they were kind of out, but they were still on in a way, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Bit of off-roading.
Were you flat in 14?
Yes.
Yeah.
You?
But that's I was seeing on my dash. I was like a tenth and a half faster, and every time it was 0.9, 1.0. Okay.
Oh my god!
What happened?
You drove straight over the mirror.
Yeah. Who? Carlos or?
No, it's Sauber.
Yeah.
I don't know which one.
Yes, funny.
Well,
What's slowest drag race? Did you guys touch it?
no, it was very close, but oh, people in the back there.
Yeah.
I was all over the place.
Well, plenty to be played into the cool-down room. Discussion going on down there by the railing underneath the podium at the end of the longest ever Formula One season. There's going to be another celebration for Red Bull. Let's get things underway. There's so many down there to applaud our top three. Had to work so hard for it tonight. In third place is going to be Oscar Piastri, back on the rostrum again in Formula One. Seems to always have the pace around this track. Winner of the sprint yesterday, third place in the Grand Prix today, and that is his 10th Formula One career podium.
Second place of the year, Charles Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc steps onto a Formula One podium for the 42nd time in his career, and Ferrari will fight McLaren in a week's time.
Max Verstappen.
With a champion driver of the world with a drive to match, Max will hear his national anthem as the winner.
Red Bull Racing, the Dutch and Austrian national anthems.
Max Verstappen's heard those two tunes before. The Austrian and Dutch national anthems sound out around the Losail International Circuit. Victory for the world champion, and another moment for him to celebrate. The driver that began in 2015 now has 63 Grand Prix wins.
By the FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem. He's got quite a collection of these. And he gets that unique FIA medal from the president of the FIA to the winning constructor.
So to Red Bull Racing, the trophy about to be delivered into their hands once again. It's great to see the stripe rotated so many times so the recognition can be shared. A fantastic moment on the podium, and Red Bull celebrating, having gone so long without victory for such a large part of the year. 7 different winners this year, and Charles Leclerc will know that second place was the absolute peak of what Ferrari had underneath them. He believed his qualifying lap was at the maximum. Second place was a strong result as well. They'll expect to be quicker in a week's time in Abu Dhabi. Oscar Piastri will have thought that there was a chance for P2 today. And he was swapped back behind Charles Leclerc because of the timing of the safety car and the stops underneath. And so, as the presenters make their way from the podium, it's the fizzy stuff being sprayed on the rostrum once again. A battle for the lead that raged lap after lap, that went wheel to wheel at 200 miles per hour on one of the restarts, was ended when Lando Norris was penalised for not slowing for yellow flags. It promoted Charles Leclerc and then Oscar Piastri. There were spins, there were overtakes, there were penalties, and there was victory for the world champion once again. Max Verstappen taking a big glug, celebrating, and it has been an illuminating kind of night. So much to discuss in the post-show. I hope you can stick around for that, because we might need an hour in terms of running through everything that we've seen tonight. In the end, crucial points for Pierre Gasly as well in 5th place, and Sauber returning to the points thanks to Zhou Guanyu, as the top 3 complete their evening's work, pose for the photos, and we have 1 Grand Prix to go in 2024. Okay, let's confirm the result then after a really intense run under the floodlights of Qatar, the Losail International Circuit providing some Grand Prix. Max Verstappen winning his 9th race of the year. Charles Leclerc in 2nd place, elevated past Oscar Piastri under the safety car. George Russell was given a 5-second penalty but keeps 4th position. 5th position is enormous for Pierre Gasly and Alpine in the Constructors. Then it's Carlos Sainz ahead of Fernando Alonso. Zhou Guanyu returns Sauber to the points for the first time all year. And then it's Kevin Magnussen in 9th. Lando Norris, after that penalty, dropped down to 10th place. Valtteri Bottas was 11th, passed late on by Lando Norris. Lewis Hamilton had a drive-through penalty that dropped him to 12th, and then it's Yuki Tsunoda, Liam Lawson and Alex Albon, who gambled on the soft tyres and they faded away, dropped down to 15th in the end. Hülkenberg, Perez, Stroll, Colapinto and Ocon are the retirements. So we tick on to the Drivers' Championship of the World. We know that Max Verstappen is the champion. He's on 429 points. Lando Norris on 349. You can see Charles Leclerc closing in on that runner-up spot that he's claimed before in 2022. Oscar Piastri is ahead of Carlos Sainz. George Russell extending the gap over Lewis Hamilton, Sergio Perez, Fernando Alonso and Nico Hülkenberg complete the top 10. Pierre Gasly climbs to 11th place, down to 12th goes Yuki Tsunoda, then it's Stroll, Ocon, Magnussen and Albon. Ricciardo no longer competing in Formula 1. We'll wait to see Oliver Bearman next year. Franco Colapinto in 19th, and on the board at last, Zhou Guanyu now in the top 20. Liam Lawson down on countback, and then it's Bottas up to 22nd, and Logan Sargent is 23rd. This is where it gets interesting. The Constructors' Championship separated by 21 points. McLaren ahead of Ferrari. It all goes to the last round of the season. Red Bull in 3rd, Mercedes in 4th, and then it's 5th place for Aston Martin. Up to 6th go Alpine with that result. Down to 7th go Haas. RB are in 8th. Williams are in 9th. And Sauber finally have some points. Well, that was a Grand Prix and a half. Plenty to talk about in the post-show. You're going to have to press play on that because that was a contentious Grand Prix. Thanks to the broadcast team, thanks to DC and Jolien and you for watching. We'll see you next week when F1 returns for the title decider.